10 unsolved kidnappings that still haunt us today. You responded to the questions we posed. The following are some of the mysteries that the lineup viewers just can't seem to let go of: disappearances, deaths that seem suspicious, and mass murder. The mysteries that haven't been solved are much eerier than the most terrible ones that have been investigated. Number 10. Sherry Lynn Marlar was last seen in Greenville, South Carolina in 1984. Sherry Lynn Marlar, a native of Greenville who was 12 years old at the time, went into town with her stepfather on June 6, 1984, to run some errands. She was given $1 to use at a vending machine to purchase a beverage of her choice while he went into the bank to sign some documents. He instructed her to meet him back at his truck in 15 minutes. She hasn't been seen since. In 2015, Betty Stringfellow, Marlar's mother, gave an interview with the Montgomery Advertiser in which she stated, "That's when our nightmare started 30.5 years ago." The mystery of what happened to Marlar was investigated on the television show Unsolved Mysteries. Number 9. In the year 1982, several people who were on the fishing boat Investor were killed in Craig. According to a report published in People magazine on September 6, 1982, 8 people were killed aboard a fishing boat known as the Investor after being shot to death. The victims included a father, his pregnant wife, their 2 children, and adolescent deckhands. It is thought that the perpetrator of the crime came back to the spot the next day in the afternoon and set fire to the boat. The event, which took place in the sleepy fishing village of Craig, was the most horrific mass murder in Alaska's history and sent shockwaves through the community. Investigation Discovery's People magazine Investigates aired a segment on the case, and the true crime book What Happened in Craig, Alaska's Worst Unsolved Mass Murder is about the case. Number 8. In 1978, Pauline Robin Burgett was stabbed to death. She died from her injuries. After spending the weekend away from Phoenix with his mother, Chad Burgett returned to Phoenix on March 12, 1978, to discover that his sister Pauline Robin had been brutally murdered with several stab wounds. The suspect in the murder of the 16-year-old is believed to have known the victim. According to Fox 10 Phoenix, they have DNA evidence, but they have not yet identified the source of the evidence. Number 7. Morgan 1995 was the year when Nick was last seen at a ballpark in Alma. According to 5 News, the last time anyone saw Morgan Nick, then aged 6 years old, was on June 9, 1995, at a baseball in Alma, Arkansas. An unnamed man in a red truck that was spotted driving away about the same time that Nick disappeared was considered a suspect, but after following up on numerous leads, the authorities have not made any progress in their search for her. The family of Morgan Nick established the Morgan Nick Foundation to provide urgent support to the families of children who go missing. Nick's name is also honored by having the Arkansas Alert System bear his moniker. In 2010, Nancy Grace discussed the cold case, and in 2012, Extreme Makeover, Home Edition gave the family a new house as part of their makeover. Number 6. The notorious Zodiac Killer spread fear throughout the state of California. Between the years 1960 and 1970, the so-called Zodiac Killer has been linked to at least 5 homicides and 2 attempted homicides, although he or she has claimed responsibility for at least 37 killings by sending ciphertext communications to newspapers in which they describe killing individuals. The so-called Zodiac Killer has been the focus of several films, the most notable of which are Zodiac and Dirty Harry, the latter of which was based on mystery. According to Fox News, the San Francisco Police Department has stated that the inquiry is still active despite the assertions of a group of independent investigators known as the Case Breakers that they had discovered the notorious criminal in the year 2021. Number 5. In the year 1996, the body of pageant queen JonBenet Ramsey, who was 6 years old, was discovered in the home she shared with her family in Boulder. On December 26, 1996, the body of JonBenet Ramsey was discovered unresponsive in the cellar of the home she shared with her family. According to Vanity Fair, she was wearing her favorite pageant nightgown in addition to having cords wrapped around her right wrist and around her neck. According to CNN, her parents also found a ransom note that demanded a sum of $118,000. Her parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, were considered potential suspects in the case. However, in 2003, DNA evidence obtained from John Benet's underwear pointed to the involvement of two people who were not related to either of the Ramseys. In 2006, a guy called John Mark Carr confessed to the murder, but it was later determined that the confession was not credible because he was unable to provide any additional details and his DNA did not match what was found at the scene of the crime. The investigation is still ongoing. Number 4. Mary Badaracco was last seen in Sherman in 1984, but her disappearance was surrounded by mystery. The last known sighting of Mary Badaracco was on August 19, 1984. According to the Hartford Courant, her automobile was left parked in the driveway with the driver's side bashed in, and her wedding ring and car keys were left on the kitchen counter. Moreover, her car was left with no gas in the tank. Dominic, her husband, informed the authorities that the two of them had been contemplating a divorce and that Mary had absconded with $100,000 in exchange for their home. However, no trace of the money has ever been located, and Dominic did not make a missing person report for her. There was a tip in 1985 that suggested that Mary's death was the result of a hit by Hell's Angels, but the investigation has not produced any new leads. Number 3. In the year 1986, the body of Jane Marie Pritchard was discovered in the Blackbird State Forest. According to Delaware Online, Pritchard was conducting research for her master's thesis in botany at the University of Maryland, and she traveled to Blackbird State Forest multiple times to gather data. On the other hand, at about 10 in the morning on September 19, 1986, her comprehensive notes stopped. She was discovered the following day with only part of her clothing on and dead from a gunshot wound to the back. Her death was declared a homicide, even though hunters frequent the forest frequently. In 1987, DNA evidence cleared a squirrel hunter of any wrongdoing after he had been detained and questioned by authorities. The New Castle County Police Department established a new cold case squad in 2015 and began re-examining the case at that time. However, there have been no fresh breakthroughs. Number 2. A triple homicide that occurred in Tallahassee almost half a century ago is still a mystery today. According to WCTV, on October 22, 1966, Robert and Helen Sims, together with their daughter Joy, were discovered bound, gagged, stabbed, and shot inside their house in Tallahassee. After more than half a century, the authorities are no closer to solving the crime. A documentary titled 641, Muriel Court, as well as several podcasts have been devoted to discussing the killings. Number 1. In the year 2012, Vanessa Honey Malone was killed when she was shot while visiting the apartment of her friends in Stone Mountain. According to NBC News, in 2012, Vanessa Honey Malone, then 18 years old, came home from a day of work and informed her mother, Flora, that she was heading out. Not long after that, Flora heard gunshots coming from an apartment complex next door and immediately called to check on Vanessa and see if she was okay. She did not answer the phone when it was called. Two of Vanessa's companions who were renting the flat where she was murdered have stated that they were victims of an armed robbery and that they were tied up and locked in the toilet during the incident. Vanessa was the one who was slain. Her family has a group on Facebook open to the public in the hopes of receiving information about the cold case, which has been covered by Dateline NBC. In April 2020, an arrest was made. However, it is quite likely that more persons were implicated. Do you like this video? Give your valuable response in our comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this.